That is the only window that works. Maybe it doesn't work anymore. Never mind. This car is just so well built, never has any sort of cosmetic issues or anything like that. I don't need to exaggerate that. Welcome back to Topher Parker's car hoopty fleet. What is probably the most confusing and, let's be honest, crappy hoopty fleet on YouTube right now. It consists of an old rusty BMW with a penchant for hitting deer, a leaky, smelly old Volvo that has a penchant for blowing transmissions, and a red financial mistake that is quite well known for breaking pretty much everything that you can see and most of the stuff you can't see as well. In terms of reliability, here's what we have to talk about. That one, 5 out of 10. This, 10 out of 10. Amazingly, hasn't had really any problems. Is there a number that fits on the 0 to 10 scale that's lower than 0? It would be this. But lately, this thing has actually been not too bad. It's some wood to knock on. I'm not sure if it has an opposite effect if it's fake wood, but you know. Still feeling quite fresh off of its deer hunting expedition last year. This car has had quite a difficult year indeed, as I detailed in my recent 4-year update, so check that out if you have the time. In short, rust. Clutch is very much on its way out, still has a silver panel on the side, still has that, I'm sure very confusing for most people, license plate, because people read it as BMW 1 Deer O, not BMW 1 Deer 0, and even if they did understand it, they likely wouldn't be able to just figure out that, oh, this car must have hit a deer at one point, killed the deer, and then survived, and now the owner is making jokes about it because he is weird. I have done a couple things to it, namely just stupid cosmetic changes that I really shouldn't have been focusing on because it needs a lot of mechanical work right now and body work with that rust on the back. But what did I do instead? I found in the junkyard a full set of aluminum trim, put it in this car, and I was absolutely blown away by how good it looks. I've always been a wood trim guy, but this aluminum trim, in contrast with the black interior, is just so sweet and sporty looking. I absolutely loved it to the point where I put the wood trim up on eBay and said goodbye forever. Didn't need that anymore. Now, in my first fleet update 2 years ago, I went into handheld mode, talked about the car like it was something really to be proud of, how well the paint was holding up after 170-ish thousand miles at the time. Now though, this paint is not very good. As you can see, this whole hood is just completely trashed. I mean, it was a $50 hood out of the junkyard. You can never expect it to be absolutely perfect. Around the back, this right here is the only window that really rolls down and rolls up the way it should because it's an E46, and the one thing that E46s love behind burning oil and having vacuum leaks and rusting is letting their window regulators just die. So that's fun. This was something that was detailed in my last update video on this car. You can see somebody hit this car, didn't leave a note, and ran off because I guess they're worried about hitting a BMW because of the insurance bill, but they didn't realize that this car is worth about as much as a 10-piece chicken nuggets medium meal for McDonald's. I mean, it's sometimes you just don't understand people. I do have a new trunk lid that is going to go on at some point. So yeah, this car isn't perfect, quite far from perfect actually, but still has a manual gearbox, still makes 6-cylinder sounds. Out of all 3 of the cars, it is the most neglected, and I do feel genuinely pretty horrible for the way it's been treated, especially this past year. A trooper for sure. This car's gotten me through a lot. Let's take a quick spin in it, shall we?
It may look like I'm doing the driving portion on a different day, in that it suddenly got 20 degrees colder. And you'd be right, it's on a different day because I ran out of daylight. When you accelerate hard in first gear, there's definitely a pretty bad drivetrain vibration, like right underneath where we're sitting, like the drive shaft or some coupling or something is on its way out. I don't really know. When a car of mine has a problem, and I think it's this problem, it's usually something completely different. So who knows what it is? All I know is that in first gear, there's a vibration. In terms of windows that work, intermittent. It has good days and bad days, don't we all? Other passenger side, that barely works. That window back there doesn't work. The one that you can see back there, that is the only window that works. Maybe it doesn't work anymore. Ooh, okay, never mind. I have 0 working windows in this car. The more issues that pop up, the more it feels neglected, and the more I feel like I'm not doing a good job taking care of this car, because I really am not. Engine seems still quite smooth and healthy. It's an M54, and M54s are pretty robust engines. Yeah, you have to deal with Vanos things, vacuum leaks, but this one seems to be pretty okay. On the highway, vibrates more than I would like. In terms of future plans for this car, there will be another update on this car if I either decide to sell it or if we decide to fix the clutch, do this, that, and the other thing. So stay tuned for more news on this car.
I'm not good at parking. This is the most unreliable car that I own, but since the last update, which was the 3-year ownership update where I detailed about how it overheated again, and I was immediately like, oh no, God, it's happened, the head gasket. But surprisingly, it was actually a really simple fix. It was just a clogged radiator. At the time, we thought radiator still definitely needs to be replaced, but I haven't had any issues with it yet. So with that said, I'm gonna whisk you all backwards in time to where my hair is either shorter or longer. I can't remember, nobody really cares, and we'll pick back up in just a moment. Well, thank you for the lovely segue, Topher from the future. Here we are standing next to what is a suspiciously reliable 2004 Freelander V6. Almost like it wants something from me. Couldn't imagine what that is. Edit that out. No, it sounds fine. This is how loud they were from the factory. Yeah. There's 2 sections of an exhaust down there, and they're sort of split apart, but that's just by design, right? So yeah, this car has had a running exhaust leak basically the entire time I've owned it. I like a louder-ish exhaust as much as the next guy, but when it makes your car sound like a tractor, then it's not really that enjoyable. It does sound cool when you rev it out a little bit, but overall, 90% of the time, the drone from this exhaust leak is really annoying and has actually prevented me from driving this car a lot. What we're going to do today is take this down to master muffler and put an end to this exhaust leak malarkey once and for all. I think it's just finally time to give this car the exhaust that it's deserved. And hey, maybe it'll return with even more solid reliability. This car has gotten its exhaust fixed. It was $550. Quite expensive, I know, but honestly, $500 was a small price to pay to make this thing enjoyable to drive again. Let's have a little exhaust comparison test, shall we? It's quite funny when you think about it. This car went from being my loudest car to my quietest car. I mean, the starter motor actually makes more noise than the engine that it starts, which is pretty bizarre. But of course, it isn't all peaches and sunshine. Literally the day that I picked it up from the exhaust shop, I'm driving it up the canyon, just enjoying how much quieter and nicer to drive it is, and a familiar amber warning light shows up in my dashboard. The check engine light. If you own a Freelander like this, you need to take it off-road or on some dirt roads, have some fun every once in a while to really remind yourself what makes this thing so awesome. Around town, everyday driving, it's fine, but the body roll is absolutely immense. This is the worst handling car I've ever driven in my life. Despite the fact that it's a small SUV, it just handles so awful. It's completely ridiculous. I think the center of gravity is somewhere in these roof crossbars right here. In terms of cosmetic things like paint and clear coat, well, you could probably see it from where you're sitting, likely on the toilet at the moment. This clear coat right here is pretty much all gone across the whole top of the bumper here, there as well. Headlight has always been cracked. This hood, I mean, I have perfected the paint on this car many times, but every time I do that, breaks down, ends up sitting for about a month, and then when it sits, it's back to looking like a $500 car again, which is unfortunate. This paint right there is never gonna look nice ever again, ever. To protect my taillights when I'm going through the Starbucks drive-thru and hit a bush or something, I got these taillight guards, but there's more clear coat peeling right here. This window is still very secure from theft. But I mean, these are just small nitpicking things, the check engine light, the clear coat peeling, and the windows not really working right. Since the exhaust was fixed, I've actually been driving this car a lot more often than before because it's not actively annoying to drive. It's actually smooth and quiet once again, like it always should have been. Let's take a quick drive in it.
So right now, not only do I have the check engine light, but I also have the 3 Amigos, which is a Land Rover thing. 3 Amigos, if you don't know, it's the traction control light, the ABS light, and the hill descent control warning light. All 3 of them always come on at the exact same time. Usually it means something like an ABS sensor or wheel speed sensor or something like that. We haven't really investigated the problem because it's not that big of a deal, especially right now, but come winter, I will have no ABS, no traction control, and no hill descent control. Other than the Christmas tree special dashboard that I have right now, it's fine. I mean, it runs better than it ever has. Here's a tight turn. Oh yeah, turning circle is not as good as in the BMW, for sure. I made that exact same turn in the BMW earlier, and no problem. Completely fine. This one, I'm about to hit the curb, and also every time I've got a tight right or left turn, I feel like something is going to explode, the differential is going to explode or something. It makes this whining noise, just like a basset hound or something. It really doesn't like tight turns, really doesn't like tight turns. It's hard to show it on camera, but the body roll through turns in this thing is just absolutely insane. I'm kind of exaggerating it a little bit, but I don't need to exaggerate that. It's hilarious how a small SUV like this can have such big SUV body roll. It's just absolutely insane. There's a Motor Week review in period of this car, and they said, yeah, it's tempered by moderate body roll. And I'm thinking, moderate? Never feels top heavy. It's like, did you drive it? So yeah, in terms of plans for the future on this car, nothing really that I can think of. I mean, I know the paint on it is completely garbage, and it would probably need a repaint at some point, like a full respray, but I mean, this car is going to have to put me through at least 10,000 miles of nothing but amazing, beautiful, reliable, everyday service for me to even consider spending money getting it a full repaint. I mean, right now that is just completely not in the question, even though I know it needs it. Not in the question because I know that it's waiting to blow another head gasket. I would love to wire in a light bar. Just dumb little off-roader stuff is really what I have planned for this. I want to say I'm at 5,000 miles since that second head gasket job, which is a new record. We're in uncharted territory right now. So we'll see how long it lasts. Right now though, little Freelander is doing all right.
I absolutely love this car, despite all the crap that it's put me through. It's just a lovely motor, innit? All right, Volvo next. This is my 2001 Volvo S80 T6. It is not an executive. It doesn't have the really cool center console in the middle with the TV and the refrigerator for your champagne, but it is still a wonderfully luxurious Swedish land boat, and I cannot tell you how much I love this car. The best impulsive buy you could ever make. And that's assuming that the famously unreliable transmission continues to be reliable. I've been told that I really should be changing the transmission fluid in this car as often as I change the actual engine oil. That really goes to show you how much confidence Volvo enthusiasts have in this GM transmission underneath this car. I'm pretty sure transmission fluid looks suspiciously new, hopefully because the previous owner knows about the issues, so they changed the fluid to keep it working great. Or maybe it was starting to have issues and they changed the fluid to hide any issues before they sold it. Let's hope for that former option. So originally when I purchased this car in January of this year, I was like, oh God, what have I done? I bought a cheap twin turbo Volvo and I think it's gonna work and be reliable. I just need to get this thing through registration and sell it on before it explodes. And that was 9 months ago, and I still have it. I absolutely love driving this car. The steering is so light. I just love driving it through parking lots with one finger on the wheel. Love how comfortable the seats are. Love the crotch pocket, of course. I still use that every single day, and any Volvo without a crotch pocket, can it even be called a Volvo? That's the Volvo thing. Also, these wheels are fantastic, really gorgeous looking. Definitely adds to the whole luxury car vibe for me. They're called Arrakis. Arrakis, which kind of sounds like a planet from Star Wars. This is probably the dirtiest engine I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it really needs that Elliot Alvis style simple green treatment. Oh God, it's like, I'm looking at this a little more closely and I think it's a lot more caked in oil than it was last time I opened the hood, and now I'm a little freaked out and worried. But you can see it says twin charged on the top. Knock on wood, it's been perfect so far. This car is just so well built, never has any sort of cosmetic issues or anything like that. Really is something right now. It's a really solid car for sure.
How does the Volvo drive? Well, in terms of handling, definitely isn't a handler, which surprises absolutely nobody. And it's a big luxury Volvo grandpa sedan. The steering is over-assisted, doesn't have much feel, but that's not the point of this car. This car is a luxury car, and to that end, it does all of that amazingly well. Turning left here in the Volvo requires just one finger and not that much effort, and it is so nice. Cars like this don't exist anymore, where it's big sedan with over boosted steering, really comfy plushy seats. Just doesn't exist in this world anymore. And in terms of issues, whole front suspension just feels terrible going over bumps. It clunks and clatters, and on the highway it shimmies a little bit, the steering wheel shakes, so that really needs to be dealt with. Also, oil leaks everywhere, so you need to be wary of where you park it, because it's like a cat, it's going to mark its territory by peeing. And this throttle problem is still a problem. Like, I have to ease onto the throttle in order for it to not jolt and have the throttle go on and off and on and off. But where this car really shines is in acceleration with this turbo. So I mean, straighten out the wheel. It's just so nice to drive around in a car that has over 200 horsepower. Because anything below 200 horsepower, it just doesn't feel very strong ever, especially if the car weighs like 3,000 pounds like my cars all do. Most of the time, they just feel gutless when you put your foot down, and it's not very enjoyable. In this car, you put your foot down, and provided that traction control doesn't get pissed off, it is like a rocket taking off compared to the other cars. I think it would be dumb to get rid of it, just because I'm loving it so much right now. I really enjoy this car. It has become my daily driver, everyday car. This thing just does daily driving so much better than the BMW, and especially the Land Rover. It's been my most reliable car since I bought it. It hasn't left me on the side of the road. It started up every single time, gotten me where I wanted to go every single time without argument. Yes, it leaks oil everywhere, but as long as you keep checking that oil level, it's gonna have new oil running through it if you keep topping up the oil, right? That's how it works.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is my 2023 annual Topher Parker fleet update. 3 daily drivers that take a completely different approach, each of them to daily driving. I have to say, once again, every year I have to thank my dad for his patience putting up with me and my car problems and my lack of willpower, especially when it comes to saving money. That was a mistake. These things are just absolutely awesome in their own way. Can't believe I'm saying it, but the Land Rover is the one that has the least amount of problems and is the most mechanically sorted at the moment, which is just absolutely insane to think about. So with that, I'm going to end the video there. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope everybody has an awesome day. Bye-bye. I'm sure one of you guys are planning something big, aren't you? Some big repair bill. Who's it gonna be? Look, it's either gonna be between the transmission here, another set of head gaskets there, or the clutch back there.